If you know me by now, you know that I'm a huge Apple Watch fan. Yes, I even bought the Apple Watch Ultra. And that begs the question, can the Whoop drag me away from Apple's wearable? Welcome back to the channel, guys, and I'm traveling at the moment, hence the slightly weird location for this video. But that is irrelevant because you might be bored of me waffling on about the Apple Watch Ultra. Well, I've got some good news because over the last few months, I've been trying out the Whoop. Now, apart from having a really cool name, it's quite an interesting fitness device. On the face of it, it's pretty expensive, it doesn't have a screen, and it doesn't look anywhere near as impressive as something like the Apple Watch. It also calls itself the most advanced fitness and health wearable available. That's quite a big claim, so I thought I'd try it out for a few months just to try and work out, one, is it any good? Two, like I say, can it drag me away from this Apple Watch? And three, who on earth is the Whoop for? Firstly, if you're wondering, Whoop aren't sponsoring this video, but they did very kindly send me a Whoop band and a free subscription to try out. And if you're wondering what Whoop is, it's basically this band, a companion app which works on both Android and iOS, and a subscription to the Whoop service. And basically, it measures your sleep, your recovery, and the effort that you put in each day through workouts. And then the app gives you this massive amount of data based on all of that stuff. And then from that, it gives you a load of actionable insights and advice on how to live a better life. So when it comes to how much sleep you get, how much you exert yourself, and how well your body recovers from extreme strain, or in my case, fairly moderate strain, Whoop kind of acts, as they say, as a personal fitness coach. Now, the band itself is technically free, but you do, as you'd guess, have to pay for that subscription service. And they've got several tiers for this. So if you lock yourself in for 24 months, you'll pay £18 per month. Instead, you can lock yourself in for just a year, but the price goes up to £22 per month. Now, if you'd rather not pay everything up front for either a year or 2 years, you can pay monthly, but bear in mind that still locks you in for 12 months. And also, it takes the price up to £27 per month. So it isn't particularly cheap, and some gym memberships and proper personal fitness trainers will cost you about the same amount of money, which does beg the question, is it worth it? So I think the Whoop band, in terms of the hardware, might divide opinion. It's not particularly garish, it doesn't kind of stand out too much. You can get lots of different bands for it, which are quite nice. So it's fairly innocuous, which I quite like. In terms of comfort, it is very comfortable actually. The only thing I'd bear in mind is that you're supposed to wear it slightly above or slightly further away than where I personally would typically wear my watch. To begin with, I did find that a little bit uncomfortable, but I did get used to it after a while. It is water resistant, it's dust resistant. It does feel pretty durable. The only thing I'd say is that the clasp, this bit here, that goes onto the band feels a little bit flimsy at times. That said, when it's on your wrist, it ain't going anywhere. Battery life is rated at 4 to 5 days. In my experience, you do get less than that. It's more like 2 to 3 actually. I don't know if that's a problem with mine. I don't think it is. I've looked at other reviews and they've said the same thing. And that does mean you have to charge it a lot. And time for an admission, my Whoop isn't charged, and it hasn't been charged for about the last 2 weeks. And the reason for that is that you have to attach a kind of little puck thing to the top of the Whoop, and that puck charges the band. The puck is water resistant, you can wear it in the shower for instance, and the idea is that you never have to take this off. So you charge the puck via USB-C, good stuff, and then you attach it to this when this needs charging. It's a great idea in principle, but as soon as I got this, I looked at that little puck thing and thought, Mark, you're gonna lose that. Guess what? I lost it. I have no idea where it is. I just don't understand why they haven't gone down the normal route of charging like a smartwatch does. Smartwatches have had to be charged off your wrist for years. I get why Whoop want you to leave this on. You get much better, much more accurate results if this is always tracking what you're doing. But taking it off for an hour, even 2 hours while you're working at a desk to charge it isn't a big deal. So it does lose marks on that. It's my fault for losing it, hands up, I'm an idiot. But I shouldn't have to worry about that. But despite the fairly mediocre battery performance and the highly losable charging puck, it's not a bad piece of kit. Right, let's talk about the Whoop app, which is absolutely fantastic. This is where it really comes alive. It's where all that data that you gather from your runs, from your sleep, from your recovery gets fed into here, and you get all this actionable insight. The first page you get is the overview page where you see your recovery for the day, your strain for the day, the number of calories that you've burnt. It's also worth bearing in mind that the Whoop app connects to Apple Health, so any workouts you do on your Apple Watch, any runs, any other types of workout you do, get fed into Whoop. And you can see that at the bottom. On this particular day, I did a run, I slept for 7 hours, and there was some other activity, which looks like I was doing star jumps. No idea what that was, but basically it feeds everything into Whoop so you get the most accurate data possible. Now just bear in mind, if you've got an Android phone, it doesn't yet connect to Samsung Fitness or Google Fit, whatever they're called, although I'm told they're on the way. Then if you go into the strain tab, this gives you your strain for the day. For this particular day, it was a strenuous exertion. And the great thing about Whoop is that it uses numbers that we can all relate to assess your performance. It tells me that my cardiovascular system has been working hard. That's nice reassurance. You can also look at your recovery, so it explains very simply, thankfully for someone like me, what the recovery metric means. And Whoop measures your recovery based on the changes in your heart rate variability, your resting heart rate, your respiratory rate, and the duration of your sleep. And according to Whoop on this day, I was 70% recovered, which was probably right. And then you get your sleep performance, and for me, 90% is pretty good. And when you set Whoop up, you tell it how much sleep you want, and it gives you advice on how much sleep you should have as well. I don't get enough sleep, and one of the biggest things that Whoop has done for me is confirm that. And the level of data it gives is absolutely fantastic. So if I scroll down, we can see day by day how much sleep I got. And as you can see, when I first started using Whoop, I wasn't getting much sleep. But as I carried on using Whoop and it kept coaching me and telling me to go to bed earlier, you can see how my sleep performance improved. That's kind of what Whoop is all about. And if you really want to go into detail and you understand the metrics behind your heart rate, you will see things like HRV, RHR, your respiratory rate, and all of the data associated with those metrics. You see, for me, that's where my ability to review the Whoop really comprehensively is quite tricky, because I don't get that much into my metrics when it comes to performance, and I don't really understand a lot of the metrics that Whoop gives you. But I don't think that matters. I think for someone like me, just confirmation that I'm going to bed way too late is really important. Sleep is absolutely vital. And the thing that Whoop has done that the Apple Watch can't do for me is get me into bed earlier, more consistently. So I'm not going to dig into all the minute details about the way that Whoop works in terms of the data. That's not me. I don't do deep dives like that. There are some fantastic reviews that show you that stuff. But I'm guessing what you want to know, based on all this stuff, based on the pricing, based on that data it gives you, based on the quality of the hardware, is it worth it? What's the good and what's the bad of the Whoop? So, like every single wearable on the planet, the Whoop has one big challenge, which is to remain on your wrist. That isn't easy at all. I've had a lot of fitness devices where they're great fun to use to begin with, and then after a month or so, you get bored of them, they get shoved in a cupboard, and you forget about them. And it really isn't too much to expect from it to remain on your wrist, bearing in mind you lock yourself into a year or 2 year subscription plan. And it does kind of promise to change your life. I know that's not the words that Whoop use themselves, they use much more, I suppose, approachable language than that, but the whole thing about getting better sleep, recovering from workouts better, working out when you should be working out, that's a big deal. And as I've said numerous times during this review, the ability for me to get to bed a bit earlier makes a big difference to my health. And when it comes to the app and all that data that you get from it, what I love about Whoop is that it's approachable for you just to look at it, and if you're as stupid as me, work out roughly what you need to do. But if you understand all of that data, if you're really into your fitness metrics, it lets you dive really deeply in. It does offer some really good advice though. So for instance, I know that I don't take enough rest days, and Whoop would tell me when I've overexerted myself and when I should take that rest day. Now since it started doing that, I've taken those rest days and it's improved my performance. But more importantly, whatever Whoop said I should be feeling in terms of being overexerted or rested enough always seemed to chime with the way I actually felt. Clearly, Whoop knows what it's talking about, but it isn't all roses. Firstly, the charging method. You shouldn't have to use that puck to charge it. You should charge it directly. I know I'm an idiot for losing my puck. That's my fault. But it just feels like it overcomplicates the ownership experience. I also wish there was some kind of free trial. You can't try this thing out without locking yourself into a 12-month or a 24-month plan, which just feels a bit restrictive, and I think that will put quite a few people off. And that's a shame, because Whoop will be missing out on people like me who aren't sure about it, but actually could benefit from it in quite a big way. And then lastly, there's the lack of integration with Google, so you can't basically automatically sync your workouts from your Google phone or from your Samsung phone into Whoop. Although that doesn't really matter, because Whoop is amazing, surprisingly amazing, at automatically picking up your activities. So if you don't have an Apple Watch, if you have an Android phone for instance, if you go out for a run, the Whoop band will recognise that it was a run, and they've got a whole list of recognisable activities that it picks up on. I haven't tried all of them, obviously, but the list is absolutely huge, and apparently it's very accurate with the rest of them. So, who is Whoop for? Well, unfortunately, it's not for me. I'm just not analytical enough when it comes to my fitness. Put it this way, Toto Wolff, who is the team principal of Mercedes, the F1 team, He wears a Whoop, and I can just imagine him loving it. If you're like Toto, I wish I was, then it's probably going to be for you. Lots of professional athletes use it as well. I can see why. Equally, if you're a serious runner, if you do lots of marathons and half marathons, it's probably going to give you quite a bit back in return. So with just a few small tweaks like those that I mentioned earlier, I think Whoop could open itself up to a much bigger audience. But having said that, that audience would include people like me who, to be fair, would probably cancel their subscription at some point because they don't feel they're getting enough from it. So maybe Whoop have nailed their target market. If you're thirsty for some more health and fitness content from me, keep watching for a link to a video I made recently where I reviewed the fairly controversial Lumen device.